Hey Fly Tires, welcome back. I'm Matt, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Now I've got a really fun fly for you today. This is another Bob Clouser pattern. And if you've been fly fishing or tying for any number of years, you've probably heard of Bob Clouser. I mean, as far as fly fishing royalty goes, he's up there with Tom Rosenbauer, Joe Humphreys, even Lefty Kreh. I mean, this guy is a modern legend. He's got two pretty famous books, Fly Fishing for Smallmouth in Rivers and Streams, which many consider to be the definitive source for smallmouth fly fishing, and he's got one called Clouser Flies. And that one certainly features probably his most popular fly, the Clouser minnow or Clouser deep minnow. If you ever ask somebody what they caught that fish on and they say, oh, a Clouser, that's what they're talking about, the Clouser minnow. Now, that's not what we're tying tonight. I'm tying another one of his patterns, not as popular or well known, but it's pretty popular. It's called the Clouser Swimming Nymph. Now, I really love this pattern. This is another one of those that you can't really mess it up. I mean, if you tie it a little bit too shabby, it might just work better for you. And it's a very versatile pattern. I mean, you can tie the tail with a rabbit or marabou, and you can tie it in several different colors. I pretty much stick with the darker, natural colors. Think your rusty browns or regular browns or olive brown or olive. You do fish it weighted and pretty deep, so the dark color is going to work better for you. But it's just an amazing fly. It's not too hard to tie. I think you're going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So in the vise, I've got a size 10. This is a 2X long curved shank hook. You could tie this as big as a 6 and probably as small as a 10. So I'm going with the smaller size. And I've got 020 weight. I'm going to put about 10 or 11 wraps on it, which will end up being about a third of the hook after I squish it together and break it off. So let's get a little closer to the front. There we go, I like that. And for my thread here, I am using, this is a 140 denier in olive. I stepped it up higher than my standard 70 denier because I'm putting some thick material on here with this rabbit. So I'll put a dam in the back and put a dam up front and then carry it back over it and take it back to the bend of the hook. Now, one thing I want to point out, let me see here. Chris left a comment on the last video asking about Euro thread, and I was trying to explain the difference between a Euro and a UTC. You see this UTC here, how it's kind of, that last wrap right there is not really laying flat. If I want it to lay flat, I'm going to spin it a little bit counterclockwise and try to flatten this thread out right there. Now, if I wanted to tighten it up into more of a rope, I would spin it clockwise, and now you can see it's a little bit tighter, and it's a little bit, see how that thread there is not laying as flat? That's what I meant by the UTC. You can lay it flat and by spinning it clockwise or counterclockwise. So normally I wouldn't have done that, but I just wanted to point that out. So let's tie in the tail on this guy. We've got a couple of options here. You really have a lot of options with the fly. You can make it a brown, an olive, a rust color. I'm doing it in an olive. So your options for the tail, rabbit, just real rabbit fur, or even marabou. And the only rabbit fur I had in olive was from this zonker strip. So what I will do here, because I want a bunch of it, so I want to find some of the long ones right here. Then I'm just going to kind of fold it over. And then that way I can grab two bunches at once. So you see this right there? That is a pretty big bunch. And I want a pretty big bushy tail on this. So I'm going to snip that off and use that right there for my tail. And you want it about a half a body length. So let's try this right here and see what that's going to do for us. I'm going to do 2 wraps, and this is, rabbit. It's kind of slippery, so be careful it doesn't spin around on your hook too much. But yeah, I like that tail right there. I'm going to use this excess up here to try and just fill in this back part of the hook behind the weight and lay a few more wraps just to try to get a decent taper right here. Now, next is some Crystal Flash. And I'm going to use a green. I don't think it matters one bit what color you put in this because, more than 3 feet away, you won't be able to tell. It's just going to look like a flash. So I'm going to tie it in about the length of the tail on my side here. Just a couple of wraps right here. And then I'm going to fold it over to the far side closest to the camera, and put one more strand going back right here. So now I should have 2 strands, and I want to trim them to about the back of the tail right here. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. Take a look at that. Do we need to put any wraps under it? Nah, we're in good shape. Okay, back my thread off just a little bit and put some wax on it. Now the only thing that I'm, consciously doing here is making sure that my dubbing on the body is the same color as my tail, whether it's brown or rust or olive brown or olive. Just try to match your tail color with your dubbing color. So I'm going with straight up rabbit right here. I'm going to put it on here fairly thin. I don't necessarily want a big buggy body. Don't really want it a tight body like a dry fly, but just a little bit fuzzy. And it might take you a couple applications because we're going to dub it all the way up there to the front of that weight. Okay, I think we're fine there. Don't really even want to taper. I think we got a little bit of one, but not necessarily on purpose. So let's tie in the Wingcase next. I'm going to end up using 6 strands of Peacock herl, but I'm going to fold it over. I did it one a minute ago, and I only used 4, and I didn't think it was enough of a Wingcase. So I've got 3 strands right here, and I'm fold it over on itself, and then just snip them, and then catch it in right here. Now I want to show you one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this. So you might think, you look at that and you say, okay, that looks good. That's my Wingcase. You really want to fold it over and take a look at how long it's going to be. So that Wingcase, that's too short. So I'm going to go back at least another couple of millimeters. Now fold it over right there. Yeah, I think that is going to be a fine Wingcase right there. So next up, some brown Hackle. And I'm doing a light brown. Use dark brown if you want, but remember, natural colors are going to darken up when they get wet. So I'm going to catch this. This is just a whiting Hebert Minor hen. And I'm going to catch it in right there at the back of that, thorax. Several wraps. And let's go ahead and snip this excess off. You could fold it back over on itself if you wanted, but I think I've got about 4 wraps on it. It's not going anywhere. So I'm going to just try to smooth this out right here. Expend a few thread wraps. Now I'm going to put some more wax on it. This time we're going to put some real thin dubbing on it. Same dubbing we just did, but I'm going to put a real thin noodle because I've got all the bulk I want on my head, but I'm just trying to color it right now. So I'm going to just put a pretty thin noodle right here, and it's probably only going to take maybe 2 inches, maybe 2.5 here. We'll see. To basically just color this thorax right here up to where the head's going to be. So I think we're fine right there. Now I'm going to wrap this Hackle. I'm going to need my Hackle pliers because I don't have a whole lot of feather here to work with. And we're going to kind of palmer it up. If you don't, you'll just end up with more Hackle than you really want. I mean, it is a big bushy hackled fly, but it's not all that bushy. So second wrap is a little bit in front of that first one, but we want them to kind of be swept back. So just keep going right here, and it's probably going to be 4 wraps to get up there to where my thread is. That's why we put that dubbing underneath, because you will see just a little bit of it. So I need to back my thread off at least 1 turn before I catch this off right here. 2 turns should lock this one in. Now I can snip this excess feather right here. pretty big and bushy, right? But that's cool. It's exactly what I want. I'm not even joking. So let's just lock these in with a couple of extra wraps right here. And before we pull that Wingcase over, let's just try to split them a little bit on either side. Probably not that important. But now grab all 6 strands of your Peacock herl and let's pull this over. And I'm trying to keep them a little bit parallel, but it's not necessarily going to happen. But when you get them pulled over like that, you're going to have some legs and a big bushy hackle coming off to the side and the bottom. So let's put 2 wraps on this right here and then take a look at what we got. Okay. Is that thorax or that Wingcase covering the thorax? Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to put another tight locking wrap right there. Snip off this excess. Now just try to clean up the head. Got a few Peacock herl fibers right there, and I'm going to spin this 140 denier, get it a little bit tighter, and then build a head. That's enough of a head right there that I can put a whip finish on it, but I like my nymphs to have a little bit bigger head, so I'm going to go ahead and build it up a little bit. Okay, that's the head I want. Now I'll do a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. We might have a little bit of cleanup to do, but we'll see in just a second. So there we go, the Clouser Swimming Nymph. Big bushy hackle, really cool fly, pretty easy to tie. So that's it, my friends. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.